smell the beer coming for happy
Smell the
hour.
beer.
I just know it's waiting behind a door
I
somewhere.
thought you were going to say you smell the excitement in the air about this next interview.
Well, we did hang out last night with
A little bit,
with this guy,
right?
so I'm
We already
I'm
know we
excited.
like him.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All right, real quick, if you would just give us your name, who you're with, and what you do.
So my name is John Fraser. I work for HEXAGON Geosystems, and I'm based in the UK. My official job title is I'm regional president for UK, Ireland, and Benelux.
Nice. You get to do a lot of traveling.
Yeah, but I got a really small region compared to a lot of regions. UK, Ireland, 1 hour time shift is a killer. Between UK and Europe, it gets me a bit of jet lag. But no, to be honest,
1 hour.
But no, I travel enough. But I've been doing the job since a long time, so it's.
So, what do you love about your job?
I guess I've always had a job where I'm doing something different every day, and in a different place every day, different challenges. So for me, I've only ever really worked for one company. So
nice.
Have you always worked for HEXAGON, or were you a byproduct of some acquisition and then another one and then another one?
No. So I joined Leica, not Leica Geosystems, Leica in 1995 when we were one Leica. And then obviously that turned into Leica Geosystems in 1997. And then obviously Hexagon bought us in 2005. So I started July the 5th, 1995 with Leica.
How did you get into this business?
Interesting. It's really interesting because this 30 years for me has come around in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
I went home to see my mum and dad recently, and I know when I first wanted to get interested because I'm from Wales. You may pick it up, you may not. So from Southwest Wales, and they were building it when I was about 13. They were building a new dual carriageway close to us, roadway. And my dad took me up there, and that moment I said I want to be a civil engineer. And at 13, I said I'm going to be a civil engineer. And then so I went to university, or I went to college, and then university, got my master's degree in civil engineering. And my 4th year thesis was you had to choose an industrial partner. I chose my industrial partner, this company I've never heard of before called Leica. And then did a thesis on software, and then they offered me a summer job. Wow. And that summer job 30 years later is still,
there you go.
Yeah, there we are.
There we are. Is that how it happened for you? You're like 12, 13 years old, and you're just like, I want to be a civil engineer?
Actually, I mean, I decided I wanted to be an engineer when I was a teenager.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Pretty young?
Yeah. My uncle was a civil engineer, and I was always like, I want to do what he does.
Has it turned out the way you hoped it would?
Well, other than
not to get off track here,
other than knowing you and doing this, everything else is pretty much falling in line.
Threw you a little curveball there.
So, so that means you've been coming to this event since they've been having it,
No,
or
not really? No. So I started technical sport, went through the whole business and different areas. So I've only really started coming here since 2017 onwards. So it's on my 4th or 5th time to HEXAGON Live. So.
Okay.
So talk about like the benchmark developments throughout your career. Like this happened and it was a game changer. And then this happened and it was a game changer.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So I joined in technical support. So when you're in technical support, you're doing support on customers who are using equipment that was bought 5-6 years ago. So that was, theodolites, add-on EDMs on top of the theodolite, all that lot.
Yep.
For me, the biggest breakthrough, I was the first person in the UK to fly over to Switzerland in 1996 to pick up the first robotic total station.
No way.
And I had to bring it back, hand carry it into London, demonstrate it to the Met Police in London. And that was the first, well, I've only just started selling, and I've now got the first ever robotic total station. So that was cool.
Yeah.
And then the next one for me, because I was selling in the late 90s, 97, we came out with the first reflectless total station. That was a breakthrough for me, because that looked, for Leica, that was great because it allowed us to go into construction because of reflectless laser and verification and stuff like that. They're my 2 biggest breakthroughs, really, robotic and lasers. And then as a sales manager and a country manager and what have you, then laser scanning came in. So, but I never sold laser scanning. I always managed a business that involved laser scanning. So being closer to technology, the biggest change in my life for me as a technical person back then was definitely the lasers coming on through the TCR 307 at the time.
Yeah. What do you think's next? without giving too much away, is there something, another development kind of, or even something you've seen here that is a potential game changer?
I've got a new role, which is looking after our safety portfolio. So we've done an acquisition X-Watch, and I'm quite intrigued on the business model behind that, because most of our technology is either improving productivity or it's sustainability with fuel savings, like machine control and what have you. We're shifting our narrative around the safety message, and I think that's quite interesting for us to pivot, saying we've got technology which is, yeah, it helps productivity and other things, but it's also a different narrative around safety. So I'm really excited about that.
Yep.
And then obviously, like everyone today, was blown away by the humanoid and stuff like that. What's happened with AI and how AI and software and stuff like that. So I think that for me is the next wave of how we're gonna get more out of AI and stuff.
Do you agree with Hans that we will always have total stations?
Absolutely. Because my point of view, at the moment you can't set out from a laser scanner.
Mhm.
Yep. 70 to 80% of our business in my region comes from construction-related activities, whether it's building construction or what we call civil infrastructure, horizontal construction. Setting out, yes, okay, you got machine control, but you still need lasers. You still need, total stations to stake out. You still need that engineering surveying, and these big projects, tunneling projects, rail projects, they will still need total stations, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Definitely. What do you think?
Mind you, you don't call them total stations. You call them something else, don't you?
No, we call them total stations.
I thought
We're
you
robotics.
called, called them guns on the end of it.
Well,
Oh yeah, we call them guns. Yeah, because we're from the United
yeah,
States. We're big into guns. So
there you go. Oh man. So like, what keeps you motivated? Right, you've been in this for quite some time. Like, what keeps you motivated when you get out of bed in the morning? What are you excited about?
Not sure I get excited every day I get out of bed. I don't think anyone is, but I think from my point of view, working for a company that does so much innovation, that is inspiring. Yeah, if you're selling the same product or managing a business that sells the same product for 10, 15 years, you've always got something coming, always something to promote, look forward to.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm background sales, so for me, people buy from people.
Yeah.
Managing people, working with people, energized by a good company with good products and people. What I get motivated by is going to see customers, and you realize that actually what you're producing and what your service to them is, they actually do some great work, and what we do is quite good. When you're a manager in a business, you kind of look at all the negatives of what's happening in your business. You always look at the things that are going wrong, or you always have to deal with problems. You never get to deal with all the positive stuff. So actually going to see customers actually reminds you we're quite good. We're not perfect. No company's perfect, but actually that's what motivated me, seeing customers who are really doing stuff with the stuff that you sold. And that goes back all the way back from when, as a salesperson, providing a solution to meet the customer's needs, to solve the problems and challenges they have. And I don't think that ever goes away. You're just solving other problems.
Yeah.
And using different tools to solve them, right?
Exactly. And whether it's management tools or whether it's technology tools.
Yeah. I mean, your guys' equipment is top notch, but when you're teaching young salespeople, like what's the differentiator, would you say, between you and your competition? Besides being a nice guy.
No, I don't. Competition, is it competition or is it an alternative supplier of technology? I think growing a marketplace and giving service and support to your customers, I think is you're in your own destiny. And if you do it better than the competition, you get more business. So I think
it's a good answer. I like that.
For a sales guy, I guess if I look back and say, what advice would I give myself as a sales guy? Is not to be so demoralized by the word no or a lost order. And if you lose an order, you get so down because you think that's the end of the world for that particular moment in time. But it's making sure the best thing is when you've lost an order and then 3 years later you manage to and you get the next order. Because you've worked harder and developed a relationship, you've built the profile, they want to deal with you, people buy from people, and then they give you the next order. And I think that's the most motivating. So if I was going to give advice to a young guy or my own self back then, would be, see it as an opportunity. Don't see it as a demoralization.
Yeah. 'Cause I mean, it's not easy business, because like you got the big three manufacturers of gear, and people have been using this brand for 20 years, and getting them to like completely shift gears and buy your product, that's a challenge.
Yeah, I guess, but like a Hexagon, we have a broad portfolio, and not everyone has the same portfolio of technology. So even
That's
you may not get a total station sale from because it's so dyno-walled in the workflow of a total station, but you may sell mobile mapping, or you may sell and we've got that breadth of portfolio
You
to
do.
allow them to
Yep.
sell something, and you're not converting a whole customer. Long gone are the days, I think, where a customer has one brand.
Right.
They'll multi-brand, they'll shop and change, but
Yeah.
software helps, workflow helps, but again, service and support is a key.
Yeah, no question.
Do you still find yourself having to do a lot of I don't know, coaching or teaching to your customers, like about what what they need or what the tools
Yeah.
can do?
I'm a little bit more fortunate in the sense of that when I go and see customers, it's kind of understanding what they're doing on a big project or a big task, and they're trying to explain what they're doing on a marketplace. So I'm actually learning from them.
Okay.
I'm
Yeah.
updating my own knowledge of what they're actually doing. But then again, because you see things a little bit more strategically, maybe because of my position or what have you, then you're saying, well, why aren't you doing this with the product? Or have you ever thought about that? And they go, not really. And then, because you're meeting more commercial people or senior people, you're kind of not selling the technology, you're kind of selling a direction or a strategy or an opportunity.
Mm.
And I think that's what I find quite motivating, that you senior people often don't know what's happening in the weeds, but you can explain what could happen, what's the benefit to their company.
Yeah.
And that's why I get motivated.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, Hexagon seems like an amazing company to work for. How would you describe the culture of Hexagon?
Yeah, I'm kind of like a culture still, in the sense of, I'm based in Europe. We've just celebrated 100 years of innovation in Heerbrugg. It's very core. The Leica Swish still carries a lot of credibility and equity in the marketplace, and we don't want to lose that.
Sure.
I was really, really chuffed when I found out that we're adopting a "when it has to be right" logo in Hexagon, because we're taking the strength of that. We really live by that "when it has to be right" in Leica.
Yeah.
Across the whole piece. We're not perfect, but if we make mistakes, and we try to make it right, and we try to work on that.
Sure.
So it's not about being perfectionists, it's about trying to be right in lots of areas. And then Hexagon's adopted that, and then what Hexagon brought to us, which was right from the early days, 2005, 2006, was the 6 core values, which goes across all the businesses.
Mhm.
And in that, entrepreneurial, and what have you, there's lots of different core values, and that's what binds us together. So we have our own identity in Geosystems, and now that's been merged into the new Hexagon with our own strapline. So I think the culture for me is quite consistent, but I've only ever worked in Europe. So I don't have experience in other parts of the world. So
Sure.
What's your favorite use case of some equipment that you sold or you're a part of, where you drove by and you're like, that's mine and I helped do that?
I probably have the other way. Where's my least favorite use case where I think, oh shit, I did that wrong?
Yeah.
That's probably more like that, really. I guess it's involvement in the high pressure stuff. That's really thinking, well, that tunnel wouldn't be done without using equipment. The proudest one we've got at the moment, which is recent history, not my own personal history, is Hinkley Point Power Station, where they've just got so much Leica equipment on, and you go on there and you think, wow, 200 TS16s on one project. That's amazing.
100.
So anything that's used every day, 200 of them, you think, wow, that's a big project. So my earliest memory was selling on a dual carriageway 95, 96. Sold them 200 grand's worth at the time of total station, GPS, and what have you. And I remember going on that project. I'm 23 years old, just come out of university. The chief surveyor goes, right, I'm not going to even entertain you talking about any of your technology until you can prove that you can use it. Go out there and set out that fence line, go and pick up a survey and come back and process it.
I love that.
And
awesome.
basically, I'm not going to entertain you unless you prove to me you know what you're doing. And I did that. And then I got the order. And so that was an early pride moment of like, yeah. tested. So I remember that. That's stuck
so
in there
cool.
for a while.
Yeah. It's kind of a fun question, I guess. What's the biggest sale you ever made?
Interesting. Yeah, because we've just lost the repeat of that order 10 years later. Yeah, so the biggest sale I've been involved in was the UK military.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Yep.
So
UK military.
hundreds of total stations. But currently, like I say, this project down at Hinkley Point, yeah, that's many millions on one project. So
Wow.
So that, yeah, obviously that's a team effort,
So awesome.
and
And I'm sure they've got the whole catalog out there between machine control
It's
and,
amazing.
and scanning.
the
and
really interesting one
remote
that
and-
where they use the BLK to go, which is a normal reality capture product, SLAM product.
Yeah.
But they use that for setting out the safety walkways for evacuation on the site. Because the site's so big, they cover the site to do the safety plan of emergency exits. They use a BLK to go.
Wow.
The project's so big.
Wow. Amazing. So what else? What are you excited about for the show?
What I'm excited about is the networking,
Mm.
but actually I kind of know quite a lot of what Geosystems does,
Yeah.
and I should do in my position.
Yeah.
What I get excited about is listening to what the other divisions are doing at Hexagon. It's it's a catch up of what Hexagon is, and it always inspires me to come here with your own view of the business. You come here, you get the scale, you get the reawakening of the power of the broader Hexagon, and then I take that back to deliver the message of Hexagon into my region and with my own staff or with customers or what have you. So I think that's the bit I get excited about, is the keynotes, listen to the strategic direction and the bigger, broader Hexagon.
Awesome. Very cool. You got anything else, Sean?
No, I'm great.
Well, we appreciate your time. I
Yeah.
know you're a busy man.
Very enjoyable. Thank
Yeah,
you.
Had a lot of fun last night
Great
and
to meet
enjoy
you.
the rest of the week.
Yep.
Thanks, chaps.
Thank you.